The pain hit first, sharp and electric through every nerve ending. Lieutenant Connor Blake's eyes snapped open to blinding white light, and the acrid smell of something like ozone mixed with antiseptic. His right hand felt warm, wrapped around something soft and definitely not human. He turned his head. Purple skin, 4 fingers, eyes like liquid gold, staring back at him with what could only be described as mortified shock. The alien nurse jerked backward, her cheeks flushing a deep violet. She let out a sound somewhere between a gasp and a laugh, covering her mouth with her free hand while her other remained trapped in his grip. "You're awake," she said in perfect English, though her voice carried a musical lilt. "Finally, you've been holding my hand for 3 rotations. Every time I tried to pull away, your vitals spiked." Connor's brain scrambled to catch up. Last thing he remembered was the transport exploding, fire tearing through the hull, his crew screaming. Now he was in what looked like a medical bay, very much not human designed, with fixtures that curved in ways his eyes couldn't quite follow. "Where am I?" His voice came out like gravel. "Safe," she said quickly, that violet blush deepening. "The Varan Coalition medical ship Luminara. You're the only survivor from the Terran frigate Valiant." The words hit like a second explosion. Only survivor. His entire crew gone. The nurse must have seen something in his face because she squeezed his hand gently. "I'm Liara. You're safe here. The Varan don't abandon the wounded, even if you humans just declared war on half the galaxy." "We what? You don't know?" Her golden eyes widened. "Earth sent an encrypted message 3 cycles ago. Full declaration. Every major species in the Outer Rim received it. Something about humanity refusing to kneel." Connor tried to sit up. Pain screamed through his ribs. Liara pushed him back down with surprising strength, her hands glowing faintly with some kind of bioenergy. "Don't move. Your species heals remarkably fast, but you still have 17 broken bones and internal injuries that would kill most sentients. I need to contact Earth Command. I need to—" The medical bay doors exploded inward. 3 massive figures in combat armor stormed through, weapons raised. Not Baron, something else. Reptilian features visible through their helmets, scales gleaming like oil slicks. "Surrender the human!" the lead one hissed in heavily accented standard. "By order of the Krenth Dominion, all Terran combatants are to be executed on sight." Liara stepped in front of Connor's bed, her whole body trembling, but her stance protective. "This is a Coalition medical vessel. You have no authority here." The Krenth soldier's weapon hummed to life. "We have all the authority we need." Connor's hand found the medical tray beside his bed, his fingers wrapped around something sharp. He had no idea what it was, but it would have to do. The soldier's finger moved toward the trigger. Connor threw. Right next part, the surgical instrument buried itself in the Krenth soldier's throat, right in the gap between helmet and chest plate. The creature gurgled, stumbled backward, and collapsed. Connor was already moving. Pain meant nothing. His crew was dead. Earth was at war, and these bastards had just threatened the one person keeping him alive. He ripped the IV from his arm and lunged off the bed. His legs nearly gave out, but Liara caught him, her hands blazing with that strange energy. Warmth flooded through him, dulling the agony just enough. "You insane human," she hissed, but she was already pulling him toward a side panel in the wall. The other 2 Krenth opened fire. Plasma bolts scorched the air where Connor had been standing milliseconds before. The medical equipment exploded in showers of sparks and alien chemicals. Liara slammed her palm against the wall panel. It irised open, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft. "Go!" Not without you. I'm right behind you, you stubborn. A plasma bolt caught her shoulder. She cried out, stumbling. Connor caught her, adrenaline overriding every screaming nerve in his body. He dragged them both into the shaft as more fire chewed through the medical bay. The panel sealed behind them. Darkness swallowed everything except the faint glow from Liara's injured shoulder and the emergency strips along the shaft walls. "Can you move?" Connor asked, supporting her weight. "Can you?" She shot back through gritted teeth. "You have 17 broken bones, remember? 16 now. Pretty sure you just healed one." She laughed despite the pain, a sound like wind chimes. Human physiology doesn't respond to Varen bioenergy that quickly. Guess nobody told my physiology that. Behind them, something heavy slammed against the sealed panel. Once, twice, the metal began to glow. "They're cutting through," Liara said. "We need to reach the escape pods, 3 decks down." Connor looked at the shaft stretching in both directions. No ladder, just smooth walls and those emergency strips. "How?" Liara touched a panel. The gravity disappeared. They floated, weightless. Connor's stomach lurched, but he pushed off against the wall, propelling them both downward through the shaft. Behind them, the panel exploded. Krent's soldiers poured through, their boots maglocking to the walls as they gave chase. "Why are they so determined to kill me?" Connor asked, pulling them around a corner junction. "You're human. 3 days ago, a single Terran destroyer held off an entire Krent battle group for 6 hours. Alone. Before Earth's declaration, humans were considered primitive, barely spacefaring. Now?" She winced as they bounced off a wall. "Now you're the greatest threat the galaxy has ever seen. 1 destroyer against a battle group? That's impossible." "That's what everyone said about humans. You don't have quantum shielding. Your weapons are chemically primitive. Your ships are held together with what the Krent called crude metal and desperation." She met his eyes in the dim light. The destroyer was called the Defiant. It took 17 direct hits that should have vaporized it, kept fighting. When it finally went down, it took 4 Krent cruisers with it. Pride and grief hit Connor simultaneously. That was humanity. That was his species. Outgunned, outmatched, and too damn stubborn to quit. Plasma fire streaked past them in the zero-gravity shaft. Connor yanked Liara into a side passage, and gravity suddenly returned. They crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs. "Escape pods," Liara gasped, pointing down the corridor. 50 meters. Connor hauled them both up. His vision swam. Blood ran down his side from wounds that had reopened. Liara's shoulder still glowed, but darker now, the energy flickering. They ran. The Krent burst from the shaft behind them, weapons blazing. The corridor walls erupted in molten metal and sparks. 30 meters. An alarm shrieked through the ship. Varen voices shouted in their musical language over the intercom. 20 meters. Connor's leg gave out. He stumbled, caught himself on the wall, kept moving. Liara supported him even though she could barely stand herself. 10 meters. The lead Krent soldier raised his weapon for a clean shot. The corridor filled with blue light. A Varen security team materialized from a side passage, weapons drawn. They opened fire on the Krent invaders without hesitation. The corridor became a war zone. "Go!" the Varen team leader shouted at Liara. "Get him out!" Liara slammed her hand on the escape pod controls. The door hissed open. She shoved Connor inside and tumbled in after him. The door sealed. Through the small viewport, Connor saw the Varen security team being overwhelmed. Saw the lead Krent soldier break through, weapon aimed directly at their pod. Liara hit the launch button. The universe became acceleration and violence. The pod shot away from the Luminara like a bullet, crushing them both against the crash webbing. Through the viewport, Connor watched the medical ship grow smaller. Then he saw the rest. Dozens of ships hung in the black, Krent warships surrounding 3 Varan medical vessels, and in the distance, moving fast, a fleet that made his breath catch. Human ships, Earth fleet, coming in hot. They came for you, Liara whispered, seeing his expression. Your people. They detected your life sign beacon and came through Krent space to retrieve you. Connor stared at the approaching fleet, outgunned, outmatched, coming anyway. The pod's emergency beacon activated automatically. They're going to start a war over 1 lieutenant, Liara said, wonder in her voice. Connor smiled through the pain. No, they're going to finish 1. Right, next part. The pod's communication system crackled to life. Unidentified escape pod? This is Captain Elena Briggs of the Earth carrier Relentless. Transmit your identification code. Connor lunged for the comm panel, ignoring the fresh wave of agony through his ribs. Captain Briggs, this is Lieutenant Connor Blake, serial number 7739 Delta, sole survivor of the Valiant. Silence. Then a woman's voice, rough with emotion. Blake, we thought you were dead. The whole crew, we thought, they are dead, ma'am. All of them. I'm alive because of the Varan Coalition medical ship. They saved me, treated me, protected me from Krent forces who boarded their vessel. More silence. Connor could almost hear the tactical calculations happening on the Relentless's bridge. Lieutenant, we're registering 1 human life sign and 1 alien in that pod. Liara tensed beside him. Her golden eyes met his, fear flickering in their depths. Affirmative, Captain. Liara is Varan medical personnel. She's wounded. She needs immediate treatment. Blake, we're in the middle of a combat zone. Protocol dictates. Protocol can wait, ma'am. She saved my life multiple times. The Varan are neutral in this conflict. They're healers, not combatants. The comm went quiet. Outside the viewport, the human fleet was closing fast. Connor counted 8 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and the massive carrier Relentless at the center. Behind them, the Krent battle group was moving to intercept. Captain, Connor pressed. Stand by for retrieval, Lieutenant. Both of you. Relentless out. Liara exhaled, her whole body sagging with relief. Thank you. You saved me first. We're even. Humans and their tallies. She smiled despite the pain. You're all so transactional. We prefer to call it fair. The pod shuddered as a tractor beam locked on. They accelerated toward the Relentless, the massive carrier growing larger by the second. Connor had never seen anything more beautiful than that ugly, angular human warship. Then the Krent opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across the black, targeting the human fleet. The destroyers scattered, their point defense systems lighting up the void. Return fire lanced out, railgun rounds moving at relativistic speeds. A Krent cruiser exploded in a ball of superheated gas. Your weapons, Liara breathed. They're kinetic. No energy signatures to track until impact. We're primitive, remember? Connor watched another Krent ship take a railgun round straight through its engine core. We just throw rocks. Really, really fast rocks. The human fleet pressed forward, absorbing hits that would cripple most species' vessels. Armor plating designed for deep space debris and micrometeorites turned out to be surprisingly effective against energy weapons. Hulls buckled and burned, but the ships kept coming. You build everything like you expect it to fail, Liara said, watching a destroyer take 3 plasma hits and keep firing. Redundancy on top of redundancy. We call it Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So we planned for it. The tractor beam pulled them into the Relentless's hangar bay. The pod settled onto the deck with a metallic clang. Through the viewport, Connor saw Marines in full combat armor surrounding the pod. weapons raised. "They're not taking chances," he said. "Can you blame them? We're at war." The pod door hissed open. A dozen rifles pointed directly at Liara. "Stand down!" Connor roared, stepping in front of her despite his injuries. "This alien is under my protection and is a non-combatant medical professional." A Marine sergeant stepped forward, his expression hard. "Sir, with respect, we have orders to secure all non-human entities. Then secure her in medical. She's wounded. She saved my life and the lives of Varen crew who protected me from Krent execution squads." The standoff held for 3 heartbeats. Captain Briggs's voice cut through the hangar speakers. "Sergeant Morris, escort Lieutenant Blake and his companion to medical. Full honors for both." "That's an order." The rifles. 2 medics rushed forward with a stretcher. Connor waved them off, but his legs chose that moment to give out completely. He collapsed, and Liara caught him again, her hands glowing weakly. "Stop doing that," she muttered. "You're going to kill yourself trying to be heroic?" Runs in the species. They were loaded onto stretchers and rushed through the carrier's corridors. Crew members stopped and stared. Some looked at Liara with suspicion, others with curiosity. One young ensign actually smiled at her. The ship rocked violently. Alarms blared. "Direct hit on Deck 7, someone shouted. Hull breach contained. Casualties being evacuated. They reached medical. Human doctors immediately swarmed Connor while a single physician approached Liara cautiously. "I can treat myself," she said quietly, "if you have the equipment." "We have a small alien medical database," the doctor said, "downloaded from captured Krent ships. It's incomplete, but let me see it." While Liara worked with the human medical staff, Connor endured scans and treatments. A doctor with kind eyes and steady hands examined his injuries. 17 fractures, internal bleeding, severe trauma, the doctor said. "You should be in a coma. How are you even conscious?" "Barren bioenergy. She kept healing me." The doctor glanced at Liara. "That shouldn't be possible. Our physiologies are completely incompatible according to all xenobiology data." Connor thought about holding her hand for 3 days, about how his vitals spiked when she tried to pull away, about how his body responded to her healing energy when it shouldn't have. "Maybe the data's wrong," he said. Another impact shook the ship, harder this time. Captain Briggs's voice came over the intercom. "All hands, brace for combat maneuvers. Krent flagship is targeting the Relentless directly. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten human lives." Connor tried to sit up. The doctor pushed him back down. "You're not going anywhere, Lieutenant. My crew died. I'm not sitting here while..." The lights cut out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. Then came a sound Connor had never heard before, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the entire ship. Liara's eyes went wide. "That's impossible. Humans don't have quantum displacement technology." Connor smiled. "We don't, but we do have something better." "What?" The ship lurched. Reality seemed to twist. Through the medical bay's small viewport, Connor saw the Krent flagship directly ahead. Too close. Far too close for any normal engagement distance.
"We have spite," Connor said.
The Relentless opened fire at point-blank range. Right next part, the railgun salvo tore through the Krent flagship like a freight train through wet paper. 30 tungsten rounds, each moving at a fraction of light speed, punched through shields that were never designed to stop solid matter moving that fast. The flagship's reactor went critical. "Brace!" someone screamed. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. The shockwave hit the Relentless broadside, sending crew and equipment flying. Connor slammed against the restraints. Liara crashed into a bulkhead with a sickening crack. The carrier spun. Out of control. tumbling through the debris field of what had been the Krenth command vessel. Alarms shrieked, people shouted, metal groaned under stress it was never meant to endure. Then the maneuvering thrusters fired. The spin slowed, stopped, the relentless stabilized. Connor yanked off his restraints and crawled to where Liara lay crumpled against the wall. Her breathing came in shallow gasps. Purple blood leaked from a gash across her forehead. "Stay with me," he said, pressing his hands against the wound. "Come on, you didn't save me just to die in a human medical bay." Her eyes fluttered open. "Did you just suicide charge a flagship? Seemed like a good idea at the time. Your species is insane. You're only figuring that out now?" A human medic rushed over with supplies. Together they stabilized Liara's injuries while the battle raged outside. Through the viewport, Connor watched the remaining human ships tear into the Krenth fleet with methodical brutality. No fancy maneuvers, no elegant tactics, just raw, overwhelming aggression. A Krenth destroyer tried to flee. A human cruiser matched its trajectory and simply rammed it. Both ships crumpled, but the human vessel kept firing even as it died, taking the Krenth ship with it into the black. "They're sacrificing themselves," Liara whispered. "For you, for one person, for the principle," Connor corrected. "Nobody threatens a human and walks away. Nobody kills our people without consequences. The Krenth executed the Valiant's crew. Now they pay." Captain Briggs's voice came through the intercom, steady despite the chaos. "All ships, this is relentless actual. The Krenth battle group is broken. Survivors are retreating. We hold the field." Cheers erupted through the medical bay. Crew members hugged each other. Someone started singing an old Earth anthem. But Connor didn't feel like celebrating. His crew was still dead. The Valiant was still gone, and Earth was still at war with half the galaxy. "Lieutenant Blake, report to the bridge," Briggs ordered. Connor stood, testing his legs. The medic tried to protest, but Connor waved him off. "I've been through worse. You were nearly dead an hour ago, and now I'm not. Funny how that works." Liara grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. "Take me with you. You need rest. I need to understand what I've gotten myself into by saving you." Her golden eyes were fierce despite her injuries. "Your captain will want to know about the Veteran Coalition's position, about what the Krenth are planning. I can help." Connor looked at the medic, who shrugged helplessly. "Against my medical advice, but she's not technically my patient." They made their way through the carrier's corridors. Crew members stopped to stare at Connor, some saluting, others just nodding with respect. The alien nurse at his side drew even more attention. "They look at you like you're already dead," Liara observed. "I was the sole survivor thing. It's bad luck in human naval tradition." "Then why the respect?" "Because I survived anyway." Humans love an underdog story. The bridge doors opened. Captain Elena Briggs stood at the center, a tall woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She turned as Connor entered, and her expression softened for just a moment. "Blake, good to see you alive."
"Good to be alive, ma'am."
Briggs's gaze shifted to Liara. "And you must be the Veteran nurse who kept my officer breathing." Liara straightened despite her injuries. "I am. My name is Liara, medical officer of the Luminara." "The Luminara is still in Krenth custody," Briggs said, "along with 2 other Veteran medical ships and their crews. The Krenth are using them as shields, keeping them between our fleet and their retreat path." Connor's hands clenched into fists. "The Veteran saved me, protected me. We can't leave them. We're outnumbered 3-1, Lieutenant. We came here to retrieve you, and we did. Mission accomplished. With respect, ma'am, the mission isn't over until everyone who helped me gets out alive." Briggs studied him for a long moment. The Varen Coalition is neutral. This isn't our fight. It became our fight the moment they refused to hand me over for execution. Connor stepped forward. Captain, the Krent boarded a medical vessel and tried to murder wounded patients. They're using healers as human shields. If we leave now, we're abandoning the very people who embodied everything we claim to stand for. We've already lost the Jackson and the Perth, Briggs said quietly. 247 crew dead. For you, the words hit like a physical blow. Connor felt the weight of those lives settling on his shoulders. Then let's make sure they didn't die for nothing, he said. Let's show the galaxy what humanity does when someone saves one of our own. Briggs turned to her tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, analysis. Can we retrieve those medical ships? Hayes pulled up a holographic display. The Krent have them clustered tight, ma'am. Standard assault would result in unacceptable casualties to both our forces and the Varen hostages. Standard assault, Connor said. What about a non-standard one? Everyone turned to look at him. You've been conscious for 2 hours, Briggs said. What could you possibly... The Krent think we're primitive, predictable. They expect overwhelming force and direct engagement. Connor moved to the tactical display. So we give them something else, something they won't see coming. Liara stepped up beside him, her eyes studying the formation. The Varen ships have functioning engines. If someone could get aboard and take control, they could break the formation from within. Exactly, Connor said. A small team, fast insertion, minimal signatures through an entire Krent defensive perimeter? Hayes shook his head. Impossible, Connor smiled. That's what they said about the Defiant holding off a battle group. That's what they said about me surviving. Humanity doesn't believe in impossible, Commander. We just haven't figured out how to do it yet. Briggs was quiet for 30 seconds. The bridge crew waited. Finally, she nodded. Make it happen, Lieutenant. You've got 6 hours to plan and execute. After that, we withdraw regardless. Connor felt adrenaline surge through his system. Yes, ma'am. And Blake, don't make me regret not leaving you dead. Wouldn't dream of it, Captain. As Connor turned to leave, Liara grabbed his arm again. If you're going back for my people, I'm coming with you. You're wounded. You need... I know those ships. I know their systems. And I know which Varen crew members will fight back and which will freeze. She met his eyes. You need me. Connor looked at this alien nurse who'd saved his life, who'd been shot protecting him, who was now volunteering to walk back into hell. He grinned. Welcome to the team. Right next part, the drop pod was barely large enough for 6 people and enough explosives to level a small city. Connor strapped himself in beside Liara while 4 Marines checked their weapons with practiced efficiency. Corporal Jake Martinez, a compact man with scars running down his left arm, looked at Liara with open curiosity. Ma'am, no offense, but you sure you're up for this? You look like you've been through a blender. I've been shot, thrown against a bulkhead, and survived a human suicide charge against a flagship. Liara said calmly. I think I can handle a boarding action. Martinez grinned. I like her, Lieutenant. Everyone does, Connor muttered, running through the mission parameters one more time. The plan was simple, which meant it was probably suicidal. The Relentless would create a diversion on the far side of the Krent formation. While their attention was divided, the drop pod would launch on a ballistic trajectory. No engines, no emissions, just cold metal and physics. They'd coast right through the defensive perimeter like a piece of debris. Then came the hard part. They'd breach the Luminara, fight their way to the bridge, and convince the Varen crew to make a coordinated jump to human-controlled space, all while the Krent were actively trying to kill them. 30 seconds to launch. The pilot's voice crackled through the comm. Liara's hand found Connor's. She squeezed once, then let go, that violet blush creeping up her cheeks again. "For luck?" she said quickly. "Keep holding it," Connor said. "My vitals work better that way, remember?" She laughed despite the tension, and her hand slipped back into his. The drop pod launched. Gravity vanished. Connor's stomach tried to exit through his throat. The small viewport showed stars wheeling past as they tumbled through space, completely unpowered, just another piece of space junk in a debris field full of wreckage. 2 minutes to contact, Martinez said, watching his tactical display. Krenth sensors are sweeping past us. No locks. We're ghosts. The Relentless opened fire in the distance, drawing the Krenth fleet's attention. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds painted the black with violence and light. 1 minute. Connor felt Liara's hand tighten in his. Her pulse was racing, visible through the thin skin at her wrist. He squeezed back gently. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "We can handle it. Those are my friends on that ship, my colleagues, people I've worked with for cycles." Her golden eyes met his. "I don't abandon my people either, Lieutenant. 30 seconds. Prepare for breach." The Marines activated their mag boots and primed their weapons. Connor pulled on his helmet, the HUD flickering to life with target data and tactical overlays. Liara had refused a combat suit, claiming her medical uniform gave her authority the Varen crew would respond to. 10 seconds. The Luminara filled the viewport, growing impossibly fast. 4, 3, "Here we go," Martinez whispered. Impact. The drop pod hit the medical ship's hull and immediately began cutting. Shaped charges blew through the outer plating. Magnetic grapples locked them in place. The breach seal formed. They were in. Connor went through first, rifle up, scanning the corridor. Empty. Emergency lighting cast everything in blue shadows. The air tasted sterile and strange. The Marines followed, spreading out in a practiced formation. Liara came last, looking around at her ship with visible pain. "They've locked down all the major systems," she said, checking a wall panel. "Bridge access is restricted. We'll need to go through medical, then up the central shaft. Lead the way." They moved fast and quiet through corridors Liara knew by heart. Twice they heard Krenth patrols and hid in maintenance alcoves, barely breathing as armored footsteps passed within meters. The third time they weren't fast enough. A Krenth soldier rounded a corner and froze, staring at the humans in disbelief. His weapon started to rise. Martinez shot him through the faceplate. "Contact!" Connor shouted, but it was too late. Alarms shrieked through the ship. Krenth voices barked orders in their harsh language. Heavy boots pounded toward their position from multiple directions. "Move!" Connor grabbed Liara and ran. The Marines laid down, suppressing fire, their weapons barking in the confined space. Plasma bolts scorched the walls. One Marine, a young private named Davis, took a hit to the shoulder and went down screaming. Martinez dragged him up. "Keep moving!" They burst into the medical bay where Connor had first woken up. The beds were still there, some occupied by wounded Varan personnel who stared at the sudden violence with terrified eyes. "Liara, tell them to get down," Connor shouted. She barked something in the musical Varen language. The patients dove for cover. Krenth soldiers poured through the entrance. The Marines formed a firing line, their discipline holding even as plasma fire filled the air. 2 more Krenth went down, then a third, but more kept coming. "We're pinned," Martinez shouted. "Lieutenant, we need an exit." Connor's eyes found the medical equipment, the same equipment he'd thrown a scalpel from days earlier. An idea formed, terrible and desperate. "Liara, those chemical tanks, what are they?" "Sterilization agents, highly volatile if mixed improperly." "How volatile?" Her eyes widened. "You can't be serious. How volatile?" "Enough to blow through 2 bulkheads. Maybe 3. Connor looked at the wall separating them from the central shaft. Good enough. Martinez, rig those tanks to blow. Everyone else, find hard cover. The corporal didn't hesitate. He pulled demo charges from his pack and started wiring the chemical tanks, while Davis and the other Marines kept the Krent at bay. 30 seconds! Martinez called out. A plasma bolt caught another Marine in the chest. She went down hard, not moving. 15 seconds! The Krent pressed forward, sensing victory. A dozen armored soldiers advancing through the medical bay, weapons blazing. Fire in the hole! Everyone dove. The explosion was apocalyptic. Chemical fire and concussive force tore through the medical bay. The wall to the central shaft disintegrated. Equipment vaporized. The Krent soldiers disappeared in a ball of superheated gas and shrapnel. Connor's ears rang. His vision swam. Strong hands pulled him up. Liara, her face covered in soot, was shouting something he couldn't hear. Then his hearing returned in a rush. Go now! The whole section is depressurizing. They stumbled through the smoking hole into the central shaft. The gravity was unstable here, fluctuating between 0G and full force every few seconds. They climbed, jumped, and pulled themselves toward the bridge levels while the ship screamed around them. More Krent appeared above them. Martinez threw a grenade. The explosion in the confined shaft was devastating, raining debris and body parts. They reached the bridge level. The doors were sealed, blast-proof, and locked tight. Liara, can you override it? Connor asked. She was already at the control panel, her fingers flying over alien interfaces. The Krent changed all the command codes. I need time. Time we don't have, Davis said, pointing down the shaft. At least 20 Krent soldiers were climbing toward them. Connor raised his rifle. The Marines formed up beside him. 4 humans against 20 alien warriors in powered armor. Well, Martinez said conversationally, this is going to suck. Probably, Connor agreed. The Krent opened fire, and Connor discovered that fighting in fluctuating gravity was exactly as terrible as it sounded. Bodies floated and fell randomly. Shots went wild. The confined space turned combat into chaos, but chaos was something humans understood intimately. Martinez used the 0G moments to launch himself at a Krent soldier, planting his rifle barrel against the alien's throat and pulling the trigger. Davis shot 2 more while falling, his body spinning through the air. Connor fought with the desperate efficiency of someone who'd already died once and refused to do it again. Every shot mattered. Every movement counted. Behind them, Liara worked frantically at the controls. Almost there, she whispered. Come on, come on. A Krent soldier got past the Marines, raised his weapon at Liara's back. Connor saw it happening in slow motion. He threw himself between them. The plasma bolt meant for her caught him in the side instead. Pain exploded through his body, white-hot and terrible. He collapsed, gasping. Liara screamed. Her hands blazed with bioenergy, brighter than Connor had ever seen. She turned that energy on the Krent soldier, and Connor watched in amazement as the alien's armor began to glow red-hot from the inside. The soldier dropped, smoking. Got it! Liara shouted, and the bridge doors opened. Right final part, the Varing Bridge crew stared in shock as humans and their nurse colleague tumbled through the doors, pursued by gunfire and chaos. Liara was already shouting in her native language, gesturing frantically at the command consoles. Connor tried to stand, failed. The plasma burn in his side was catastrophic. He could smell his own flesh cooking. Martinez dragged him to cover behind a console, while Davis and the remaining Marine held the doorway. Stay down, Lieutenant. You've done enough. Not yet, Connor gasped. He triggered his comm. Relentless. This is Blake. We have the bridge. Prepare for emergency jump coordinates. Captain Briggs's voice crackled back. Blake, your vitals are critical. You need immediate extraction. After the Varan are safe, send the coordinates. Liara was arguing with an older Varan male who appeared to be the ship's captain. His voice was sharp, dismissive. She responded with equal fire, pointing at Connor, at the humans fighting and dying in the doorway, at the Krent forces closing in. The Varan captain's eyes found Connor, studied him, then looked at Liara's desperate expression. He nodded once and turned to his crew, issuing rapid orders. The Luminara's engines hummed to life. Other medical ships are responding, a Varan crew member called out. They're powering up too. The Krent fleet noticed immediately. Plasma fire intensified, hammering the Varan vessels. One ship took a direct hit to its engine core. It went dead in space. We can't leave them, Liara said. We're not going to, Connor replied, though each word cost him. He opened the comm again. Captain Briggs, one Varan ship is disabled. The Krent are moving to finish it. I see it, Lieutenant. Stand by. Through the bridge viewports, Connor watched the relentless brake formation. The massive carrier accelerated directly toward the disabled Varan ship, putting itself between the wounded vessel and the Krent fleet. She's insane, Martinez breathed. She's human, Connor corrected. The Relentless took hit after hit, armor ablating, systems failing, but it held position, shielding the Varan ship long enough for a human destroyer to swoop in with a tractor beam. Jump coordinates received, the Varan helmsman announced. All 3 ships ready? Execute, the captain ordered. Reality twisted. The stars stretched, and suddenly they were elsewhere, surrounded by human ships in defensive formation. Safe, the bridge erupted in relieved chatter. Varan crew members hugged each other. Some were crying. Others just stared out at the human fleet with something like awe. Liara collapsed beside Connor, her hands immediately glowing as she pressed them against his wound. You impossible, stupid, heroic human, taking a shot meant for me. Seemed fair. You took one for me first. That's not how this works. Sure it is, we're even again. She laughed through tears, her bioenergy pouring into him. Connor felt the burning pain start to ease, tissue knitting together in ways that should have been impossible. Martinez whistled low. Doc, I don't know what you're doing, but his vitals are actually improving. That shouldn't be possible. Nothing about humans is possible, Liara muttered. Your species rewrites the rules just by existing. The Varan captain approached, looking down at Connor with an unreadable expression. When he spoke, his English was accented but clear. You came back for us, risked your lives, lost your people, for strangers who owed you nothing beyond basic medical care. Connor met his eyes. You saved one of mine. That means everything to us. The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then he placed his hand over his heart in what was clearly a gesture of deep respect. The Varan Coalition will remember this. When the galaxy asks us to choose sides in this war, we will remember that humans value honor over expedience, lives over tactics. We're not asking you to fight, Connor said. No, but we will anyway. The captain looked around his bridge, at his crew, at the 3 medical ships now safe in human space. The Krent have shown us they have no respect for the sanctity of healing, for the principles we've dedicated our existence to upholding. Earth has shown us they will bleed for those same principles. He extended his hand to Connor in the human gesture. The Varan Coalition stands with humanity. Connor clasped his hand, feeling the weight of that declaration. An entire species shifting the balance of an interstellar war, all because one nurse had refused to let go. Hours later, after the wounded were treated and the dead honored, Connor found himself back in the Relentless's medical bay. The same doctor from before checked his injuries with visible disbelief. The plasma burn should have killed you. Instead, it's almost completely healed. Lieutenant, I don't understand your physiology anymore. Join the club, Connor said. The door opened. Liara stepped through, now wearing a clean uniform, the Varen medical insignia prominent on her shoulder. She'd also added a small Earth flag patch beside it. I've been assigned as liaison officer between the Varen Medical Corps and the human fleet, she said. Apparently saving a human lieutenant and helping liberate 3 ships makes me qualified for diplomacy. Apparently being saved by a Varen nurse makes me qualified for stupid heroics, Connor replied. We're quite the pair. She sat beside his bed, and her hand found his again. Natural, easy, like it belonged there. Your captain told me about the crew you lost. The Valiant. I'm sorry. They were good people. They deserved better than execution. They'd be proud of what you did, of what you're still doing. She squeezed his hand. You never stopped fighting for them, for their memory. Connor looked down at their joined hands. Human and alien, different in every way that should matter, and yet fitting together like they'd been designed for it. When I woke up next to you, holding your hand, I thought I'd died and gone somewhere strange, he said quietly. Turns out I'd just found something worth living for. Liara blushed that deep violet, but she didn't let go. You humans and your dramatic statements, it's what we do best. Besides stubborn survival and impossible victories, don't forget reckless heroism and emotional damage. Those two. They sat in comfortable silence while outside, the human fleet and their new Varen allies began planning the next phase of a war that humanity had entered outmatched and outnumbered. But the galaxy was learning something that would reshape everything. Humans didn't fight for territory or resources or dominance. They fought for each other, for principles, for the simple, stubborn belief that some things were worth bleeding for, and if you saved one of theirs, they'd move entire fleets to save you in return. Captain Briggs's voice came through the ship-wide comm. Attention all hands. Intelligence reports indicate that 17 additional species have contacted Earth diplomatic channels in the last 6 hours. Word of our actions here has spread. The galaxy is watching, and they're choosing sides. Connor smiled. Guess we made an impression. You started a revolution by refusing to die and holding my hand, Liara said. That's very human of you. I had a good teacher in stubborn survival. She leaned her head against his shoulder, careful of his injuries. So what happens now? Connor looked out at the stars, at the fleet, at the future spreading before them like an unwritten story. Now we show them what humanity really means. Together, Liara's hand tightened in his. Together, and somewhere in the black, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what these impossible humans would do next.